China's killing our canola. $45 billion gone. Western farmers bleed. Mark Carney? Silent. Made millions off Beijing's dime. He won't fight. He's Beijing's banker, not our prime minister.
Hi, I'm Candice Malcolm, and this is the Candice Malcolm Show. We have a great episode for you today, folks, filled with hope. This is how an election should be. Change is on the way. Hope is on the way. This is what change looks like. So Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was in Edmonton last night, and wow, did Edmontonians ever show up for Pierre Poilievre. I'm talking about 15,000 people. Yes, 15,000 people at a Canadian election rally in Edmonton, Alberta. Now, I know Alberta is the home to the Conservative movement. It is the base where the supporters live. But Edmonton, folks, Edmonton is a government town. I lived there for 4 years during university. And yes, some of Edmonton votes NDP and Liberal with consistency. When Rachel Notley got elected provincially, it was Edmonton that really brought it home for her. So seeing the Conservatives shine in Edmonton like this, seeing 15,000 of you line up round and round the block, look at this line, look at the people wanting to go in and see Pierre Poilievre, an absolute rock star. And this is the welcome that he should be receiving. It's not just in Alberta. Of course, we have been reporting throughout the election campaign, whether he's in British Columbia or in parts of Ontario, rural Ontario, suburban Ontario, even out east, Pierre Poilievre gets this rock star welcome because Canadians want change, okay? We are sick and tired of Liberal rule. We're sick and tired of what the Liberal government under Justin Trudeau and now under Mark Carney, what they have done to our country. They have destroyed our country, but we're not giving up. We're not done yet, and we will fight for our country. This is what that looks like. So optimistic. I'm just so excited. I think the polls are wrong. I think that the momentum is clearly there for Pierre Poilievre. It's just getting stronger and stronger. Canadians are coming out to show it. And guess what? The people who vote Conservative are the most reliable voters. These are people who you know on election day. It doesn't matter, rain or shine, whether there is a blizzard or a rainstorm or whatever else is happening. These people will show up and vote. The Conservative vote is so reliable. And so, yes, some polls are still showing that the Liberals are in the lead. I don't really believe it. I think the momentum is behind Pierre Poilievre, and this rally really shows it. So here he is. This is Cian Bexley reporting. He was at the rally, and he says, breaking, cell connectivity has gone down at the Pierre Poilievre rally in Edmonton after 15,000 reportedly shown up. So many people were trying to get on their phones at the same time. Apparently, the service was shut down. Now, how did the event itself go? Well, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper was there to give the introduction for Pierre Poilievre. Great to see this moment. Wonderful moment from the former Prime Minister endorsing Pierre Poilievre, saying, hey, both the candidates in this election used to work for me. Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of Canada under Stephen Harper, and Pierre Poilievre was a junior minister and a young MP back in those days of the Harper government. Well, here is Harper telling you his choice for Prime Minister.
You know, friends, I am in a unique position in this federal election. I am the only person who can say that both of the men running to be Prime Minister once worked for me. And in that regard, my choice, without hesitation, without equivocation, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pierre Poilievre.
Absolutely wonderful moment there from the former Prime Minister introducing his former protege, basically. And Pierre Poilievre takes the stage. The crowd absolutely loves him, going nuts. And I want to show you what Dan Knight had to say about it. We've had Dan on the show before, a very astute commentator on Canadian politics. And here is what he wrote on X. He said, last night in a massive warehouse just outside Edmonton, something extraordinary happened. 15,000 Canadians showed up, not for a concert, not for a protest, but for a political rally. For one reason, to hear Pierre Poilievre speak. But the real shock was the man who introduced him. So he's talking about Stephen Harper, the most successful conservative prime minister in a generation. He took the stage to deliver a blistering endorsement of Poilievre and a scathing indictment of the Liberal regime. He didn't mince words. Harper said what every Canadian knows to be true, but no one in the press gallery will admit. This country needs change desperately. He didn't hedge. He didn't qualify. He didn't say both parties have made mistakes. No, Harper made it clear. The crisis, soaring costs, collapsing standards, vanishing jobs, growing division. It wasn't created by Donald Trump. It was made right here in Ottawa by 3 terms of Liberal government and the Prime Minister who wants a 4th. And so here is what Stephen Harper had to say. This is extraordinary.
These were not created by Donald Trump. They were created by the policies of 3 Liberal terms, policies that the present Prime Minister supported and wants a 4th Liberal term to continue.
And then I'm going to go back to Dan. This is what he said. That's as blunt as Harper gets, and it should be a headline on every newspaper in the country, but it won't be because it hits too close to home for the elite class that spent nearly a decade covering for Trudeau's failures. Harper pointed out that the Liberals and their media allies are now trying to blame everything on geopolitics, blame Trump, blame supply chains, blame COVID, blame war, blame anything but themselves, because the truth, they can't run on their own record, so they're running from it. And what is their record? Exploding debt, collapsing GDP per capita, a federal bureaucracy that punishes work and rewards compliance, a housing market that's locked out an entire generation, and an energy sector that's been handed over to the Americans while Canadians sit unemployed on world-class resources. Dan Knight is absolutely right, and this is why we are so fired up for Pierre Poilievre. And I want to highlight one thing that Pierre Poilievre mentioned, because this happened yesterday after we recorded our show, and I really want to get to it. But Pierre Poilievre pointing out the elephant in the room, folks, the elephant in the room that the mainstream media refuses to cover properly. And that is that China is interfering in our election as we speak, and they're promoting their golden boy, China's rock star, which is Mark Carney. Here's Pierre Poilievre making the point that it really is, at this point, Canada against China.
Today again, the Chinese government was out campaigning for the Liberals, supporting Mark Carney, just like they did during the leadership race of that party. And who would wonder why? Mr. Carney, while he was economic advisor to Justin Trudeau, actually went to China to get his company a $250 million loan, a loan that his company still owes, and a company in which he continues to be invested.
Absolutely unbelievable. Pierre Poilievre pointing out the facts, and I want to cover this story because as much fun as it is to cover the positive stuff about Pierre Poilievre doing an amazing job out on the campaign trail, the reality is that someone is trying to put their thumb on the scale of this campaign, not happening in our country, not here in Canada, but in China, and we now have proof of this. So here is reporting from Juno News. The CCP election interference campaign is boosting Mark Carney as their rock star candidate. So here, let me just read a little bit from Juno News. The task force dedicated to securing Canada's elections from foreign interference announced it has detected a coordinated campaign by a Chinese Communist Party-backed news channel to promote coverage of Liberal leader Mark Carney. Amplified coverage of Carney includes posts identifying him as a, quote, rock star, unquote, and highlighting his pro-China views, of course. So on Monday, the Security and Intelligence Threats to Election Task Force at site revealed it had detected the state-backed Chinese WeChat platforms had been attempted to influence the Chinese diaspora's view of Carney. Attempts included amplifying his experience and credentials. The information operation was launched by Yuli Yuman, WeChat's most popular news account. Intelligence reporting links Yuli to the Communist Party in China and their Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission. This, according to Lori Ann Kempton, who is the Assistant Secretary for the Privy Council's Office Communication, during a press conference on Monday. And we have a little bit of that press conference. Here is what it looked like, folks.
We are aware of an information operation targeting the 45th general election on the social media platform WeChat. The information operation was launched by Yoli Yomien, WeChat's most popular news account. Intelligence reporting links the Yoli Yomien account to the PRC Chinese Communist Party Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission. The content of this information operation contains story about the Prime Minister, Liberal Party of Canada leader, and candidate in Nepean, Mark Carney. This content has been amplified in a coordinated and inauthentic way. This information operation had contrasting positive and negative narratives, first amplifying Mr. Carney's stance with the United States, and then targeting his experience and credentials.
Absolutely unbelievable. We have a Canadian intelligence officer admitting that this is happening in the middle of our campaign. Why aren't we stopping it? Why isn't this front page across the country? We have a foreign country, and not a friendly neighbor and an ally like the United States, but an actual nefarious, evil government that does unspeakable things, that has different interests than we do, different values than we do. And they're out there promoting Mark Carney. Just think about that for a second, folks. What does that say about Mark Carney? The fact that China is going all out for him, and the Canadian officials can just politely say, hey, we've noticed that this is happening, and it's not very good, but we're completely powerless to stop it. Foreign nefarious actors are taking charge in Canada. That should terrify every single one of us. And luckily for Mark Carney, rather than having to deal with this, rather than having to deal with the bad press of wondering why on earth is an evil government like China promoting Mark Carney, instead we have the Liberal media in Canada, of course, covering for Mark Carney. So let's just take a look at how the legacy media has reported on this huge news that China is actively working on behalf of Mark Carney. Here is a global news headline: Carney targeted by Chinese WeChat operation in Canada. He was targeted. He was targeted, folks, making it seem like he's somehow the victim. Well, it isn't just global news. CTV mimicking the same language. Elections Task Force detects Chinese information operation targeting Carney. Okay, so if you're just reading headlines out there, like many Canadians get their news by just scanning the headlines, you would think, oh no, Mark Carney is being targeted in a campaign by the Chinese. That must mean that the Chinese don't like him and that he's standing up for Canada, right? That was what you would think if you were reading these headlines. Finally, the CBC security official report, a Beijing-linked online operation focused on Carney. Oh, it's just focusing in on him. Nothing harmful, nothing to worry about here. Just targeting Carney and focus on Carney. This is absolute nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. It's the opposite. It is targeting his opponents, right? During the 2021 campaign, we know a similar WeChat campaign was out there targeting Aaron O'Toole in a negative way. They were targeting him because they were attacking him, because they didn't want Aaron O'Toole to win. They wanted Trudeau to win because the Chinese Communist Party likes Liberals in Canada. They want the Liberals in office, and the media is an absolute disgrace and an embarrassment, pretending that somehow this is targeting Carney. No, it is not. It is benefiting him. It is, if anything, it's targeting the Conservatives because they don't want a Conservative government. They know a Conservative government would be strong for Canada, would have zero tolerance for this kind of nonsense, would make sure that China was kicked out, not able to interfere in our elections. But with the Liberals, they know that Mark Carney is chummy, close friends with the communists in China. He loves the green energy over there. He loves China, just like Justin Trudeau admired the basic dictatorship in China. Mark Carney is 2.0, exactly the same way. And the ties go even deeper because remember Paul Chang, the candidate out in Unionville, Markham, that got booted? Finally, he stepped down after it was revealed that he was trying to turn in his Conservative opponent for a bounty put out by the communist regime in China. Well, he stepped down after, of course, Mark Carney wanted to keep him in. Mark Carney said that he had apologized and Carney was fine with that. Well, Chang himself decided to leave under pressure. And to nobody's surprise whatsoever, he has been replaced with another hardline defender of the communist Chinese government. Liberal candidate Peter Yang was replaced, and video surfaced very quickly of him in uniform. He's a former Canadian police officer, retired executive, and he is in his Canadian police uniform singing Chinese propaganda. Chinese propaganda, My Chinese Heart, wearing full Canadian police regalia. Such an embarrassment. This is what that looked like. I mean, if you don't cringe seeing that, watching someone in a Canadian police uniform praising and singing to the Chinese Communist government. I mean, this just shows you folks how far our country has gone, how low we've gone under the Liberal government. Well, our friend Sam Cooper over at the Bureau has done some digging and has a remarkable story over there. The retired Toronto police executive who joined Chinese International School, which was flagged in Canada's election interference inquiry. He is the one that replaced Paul Chiang. So he has an entire investigative report about this individual, Peter Yuan, and how, surprise, surprise, he's also very much linked to the Chinese government, working for an international school that the government of Canada has flagged and knows is involved in election interference. Mark Carney cannot get away from the scandal because his party and his government is so interlinked and intertwined with the communist regime. Folks, scary, scary stuff. Voting for Mark Carney is not an elbows up vote to secure Canadian sovereignty. Quite the opposite. He is obviously campaigning for deeper and deeper integration with the communist government in China. This should be, again, the biggest story in the country, but rather than that, the legacy media wants to continue to cover for him. It is such a disgrace. All the more reason why we need to organize. We need to do everything we can to make sure that there is a change in government on April 28th. It is so important, folks. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you appreciate our content and you want to support our work, please head on over to junonews.com and consider becoming a subscriber. Thank you so much. We'll be back again tomorrow with all the news. I'm Candice Malcolm. This is the Candice Malcolm Show. Thank you and God bless.